Hello, and thank you for joining me today for the presentation on the financial application that I built to finish off my internship that unfortunately ended early. So what I did was I decided that I would learn Android and build my first Android app. Uh, I decided to do a finance application because my wife refuses to use Excel, and I was thinking that an application might make all the difference if she just had something that she could just put the things into and do the calculations for her, and she couldn't mess up. Then she'd be more willing to manage the finances. So let's go ahead and start the application. And it comes up here. Welcome to Finance Over Short, a simple app to help you plan your monthly finances. And I've got an intro activity here. The tutorials I went through were all about activities, and later on I learned that it was probably more efficient to do everything with fragments. And on that note, um, that's the next thing that I'll probably start trying to learn about how to work with Android. But this activity right here, very simple. It's just got some text that's preset, and then a button with that activates an intent and starts an activity. I've also finished the activity because I don't want people to be able to go back to that activity on the stack because there's no reason to show it. So I'll just click on the button here, and we come up onto our main activity, which is this one right here. It's a little bit longer, and so when we create the activity, we take these and we set these values here on the screen. After those values are set, we then have the option to go through these, go through and either look at the expense list or the income list to see where those numbers are coming from. And it took me a little while to figure out how the life cycle worked with Android and how things get destroyed and recreated. And when I came back to the main screen, I wanted it to update the values here by running this function to get the information for a specific type, whether it was an expense or an income, and sum it up with the SQL statement here. It just returned a double, which allowed me to set it by saying if it was over, I could set the, if it was greater than 0, I could set the color to green, or I could set the color to a dark red color if it's less than 0. And I just added in right here the dollar sign and concatenated that to the string right there, which made things rather simple. I didn't figure out or really put much time into making it so it was a double zero on the end here, because I figured that was one of the less important things. Something I could figure out while polishing and making it look nicer, which I unfortunately ran out of time for and didn't have the opportunity to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at the expense list here, where you can see that I've got a bunch of items here and a little add button here. And if we go over here to the item activity, we can see that we use the same item activity and we just determine with whatever extra that we got which items we're going to load onto the screen, and we set the recycler view to handle moving through items. And such. And we also have a touch helper here. I've got one of them expanded to kind of show what I did here. one for left and one for right. So when we swipe away one of these items, if I swipe this way, it goes to delete it. And if I swipe this way, it goes to edit it. So that was something that took me quite a bit to figure out, but I've got it moving. This is for the edit, so we move the background and the delete out, or the foreground and the background delete out of the way, and when on the swipe, and then we initiate an activity for editing the activity. Sorry about that. I've had a little bit of a cold the last couple of months, so or a couple of weeks, not months. Sorry, but I'm getting over it. So let's say that my dog food amount wasn't right, so I just swipe that off, and I can say, okay, so I need to change my dog food amount to not $50 a month, but $20 a month, and I know that we're not going to buy it at the beginning of the month because all the other stuff that comes out at the beginning of the month is just too expensive. So we plan on buying it somewhere in the middle of the month. And so we can set that right there where it sets the item successfully, changes the amount and when it's going to come out. And if we go back here, it also updates this list. That's not a big change. It's still in the positive. But if we go into my income here, got this tip income right here that I may or may not get. And so let's just say I'm going to be working without tips for the next month. And we come in here and we come take a look at that. And you can see that this turned a nice dark red color to indicate that it's not a good number, and to show that that's a bad thing. So I was just talking about the swiping back and forth there, and pointing out another coloring feature that I implemented. So it puts the extra for the ID of the item when I swipe it to edit it, and also for the type. Then we have the insert activity, which is similar to the edit activity, but the script here for the database is just a little bit different than setting the information. We have an insert script, and we come through and we just set everything up, and I think it works really, really well. There are probably a bunch of things that could change to make it more efficient and better. And this is the edit activity script, which I have to get the item and populate the information in the item back on the screen, which was harder than I thought it would be using the selector here to actually set it. And I was having trouble getting the value in, so I had to kind of do it in I'd really prefer not to do it this way, by getting the string and then getting the number out of the string and then parsing it to an int and then subtracting one to make it match the number list. But for these purposes, it's consistent enough. But if I was using like strings or anything like that, it would be more difficult. I'd probably have to spend a lot more time trying to figure out why the find index in array and stuff like that wasn't working for me. So, and then of course, if for some reason we get to the insert activity and it doesn't have anything, it will pop up a little message saying that the item wasn't found and report problem, and it takes you straight back to the activity list and closes off this activity. So that is that. I have my database contract here, which defines the columns in a table. I also have my database helper, which creates the database and defines things that can be null and are not null. For my